Here's the guts of a LED panel meter that I got from a piece of dead laboratory equipment that I was going to do a guts video on. But there wasn't really much of interest in it. There was just one printed circuit board with a couple of multi-position rotor switches and some multi-turn trim pots. Another PCB with a couple of 15-pin D-sub connectors and a IEC fused mains input thing. Although I suspect that this thing is probably Canadian made given the age of it, as the red and brown is the old until I think sometime in the early to mid 1990s Canadian wiring color code, where red is the hot and brown is the neutral. And the only other thing of interest in it was this a positive and negative 15 volt linear power supplies, just transformer, bunch of lytics, a couple of ceramic caps down there, diode bridge, and two potential regulators, one positive 15 volt, one negative 15 volt, just standard 7.8 and 7.9 series linear regulators. Although in TO3 packages, which is somewhat unusual nowadays, but not when this thing was made, which is sometime in the late 1980s. I think there's a 1987 date code in that PCB. Both those regulators have 1987 date codes. And this thing has 1986, 1985. Might be week 2 of 1988, don't know. But anyway, this is the only real thing of interest in it. It's just got one of these on-chip ADCs with built-in BCD output logic and negative indication signal generator. That's just for, or signal output, that's just for driving whether or not the positive or the negative LED on the +1 display is lit. One thing of note is that this thing is this is isolated from the 15 volt supplies. It does have a pinout listed on the back. It's almost certainly made in Germany, judging by the Anschlussbezeichnungen auf die Lotfahnen gesehen. Although it's rebranded by a Dutch company, like BV, we're apparently based in Nijmegen. Or whether or not they're still in business, I don't know. But anyways, it's just got one of these single chip display drivers that just has a probably something like a dual slope type ADC, and just a various signal output logic. And from ones that I've seen, because I've got a similar version of one of these that I want to use in a project, but that's 4.5 digit. This is only 3.5 digit. It requires an external 7-segment driver. In this case, a 7447, boring, or 74LS47 low power Schottky TTL variant, but it's fairly standard stuff. A 100 ohm resistor network for current limiting for the LEDs, and these 4 transistors, which are just used as I think probably those are current. Either sources or sinks for multiplexing each of these, because the driver chip does not have the current capacity on its signal outputs to or current capability to signal outputs to drive the displays on its own. And there's a pot for zeroing, a couple more transistors. This, which is a TL431 precision shunt reference, that's probably just a reference for controlling this, or for as a reference potential for this thing. I don't know, might be used as a regulator, because I don't know if this very crude isolation circuit has output regulation, because that thing obviously needs this. I think it's a stable 5 volts. I don't know what the potential tolerances for the low power Schottky series device, or off the top of my head though. But anyways, it's just a you can see on the underside of the PCB there's an isolation barrier right there across which no components cross. But obviously it isn't very huge. That's just really for isolating the what this is measuring from the input supply. There's a transformer, transistor, and a bunch of passives. Now looking at the transformer pinout, there's no it's obviously using primary side feedback. It's, I don't know if it's something like a single transistor oscillator. I don't know, maybe a blocking oscillator or something. Obviously this thing is something like that would be very susceptible to variation on the input supply. So it's obviously relying on the fact that it's going to be supplied a stable 15 volts, and that is just 15 volts difference between the relative positive and the relative negative, not positive negative 15 volt, because that cap, which is wired straight across the input, is a 25 volt capacitor. There's a main switching transistor, capacitor of some sort. There's a tantalum, a couple of lytics, and a bunch of things in there. What could be Zener diodes. I don't know. I rely on a Zener shunt regulator for the 74LS47. Either that or a combination of the Zener is a reference, and then using, I don't know, maybe that transistor is a pass transistor. Although when this thing was made, the things like 78L05s were and still are fairly common linear regulators. So why they didn't just use a monolithic regulator instead of implementing something with discretes, I don't know. But then again, I didn't design the thing. And a company called Brose in July of 1988, according to this sticker on the back. So yeah, it's a thingy. And it also has things like a signal high and signal ground, digital ground, a segment test. That's just something you push that and all the display elements light up. Hold, that just locks the display. And the decimal point is externally switchable, because that's intended for control circuitry where the input is scaled to something, and you want to be able to control where the decimal point is so that the readout makes sense. In this case, it was just permanently shunted to display. That would be the decimal point that lit up. So it would be number, decimal point number. And there's a potential divider. That's just a scaling for the input of the chip. And that capacitor is wired across the low side resistor. So obviously just acting as a fairly simple single stage LC filter, just to filter out some of the crap on the input, and other than that, it's just a thing.